So towards the end of 2025, I took a trip to Disneyworld in Orlando, Florida. I had no intentions of making a video like this in the first place, but because this was my first time ever visiting the parks, I thought it would be great to give my personal thoughts on Disneyworld. Now I will say this isn't my first time visiting a Disney-related theme park. I actually took a trip to Disneyland way back when, before the 2020s. And the reason why I point this out is because of the fact that a lot of the rides that I will be reviewing in this video were rides that I have already rode on or had a different experience with, given the fact that the two parks are completely different. I visited Disney World with family, of course, and our trip lasted throughout 4 different days, each of those days dedicated to a different park. On day 1, it was Hollywood Studios, day 2, Animal Kingdom, day 3 at EPCOT, and our final day was at Magic Kingdom. And of course, with those 4 different days, this video will be broken down into 4 different parts. I'll be giving you guys my own personal thoughts on how I felt regarding these 4 different locations, giving you my highs, my lows, and of course, the rides that I loved the most. And yeah, I tried making it my mission to ride on every single ride at Disney World, but let me tell you, it was impossible to say the least. I wanted to dedicate this portion of the video to list the many rides that I didn't go on. And the following rides are Cali River Rapids, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, Mission Space, Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith, Seven Doors Mine Train, Space Mountain, Test Track, and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Now, I had rode on a few of these rides back when I visited Disneyland, like Space Mountain or the Seven Doors ride, but unfortunately, I won't be covering them in this video because those experiences were shared over at Disneyland, and we're only here to cover Disney World. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at day 1 at Hollywood Studios. Hollywood Studios opened in May 1st, 1989. Originally going by the name Disney MGM Studios Theme Park, the main basis of Hollywood Studios is for it to capture the era of the golden age of Hollywood. And because of its themes, a lot of the rides take heavy inspiration from Hollywood movies and TV shows, even those not owned by Disney. For example, Tower of Terror is based on the hit sci-fi horror show, The Twilight Zone. And of course, that franchise isn't owned by Disney, but rather CBS. And while the House of Mouse owned Star Wars, this wasn't the first time that both franchises crossed paths. In 1987, Disney and George Lucas collabed to create Star Tours, which opened at Disneyland in Anaheim, California. The Star Tours that I rode on is a revamp titled Star Tours The Adventure Continues, which opened in 2011, after the original closed back in 2010. And luck behold, Galaxy's Edge opened at Disney World in Hollywood Studios, so we'll be taking a look at that attraction as well as the many others that Hollywood Studios has to offer, starting with Toy Story Land. I was really excited to visit this side of the park, mainly because of the fact that when I was a kid, I watched the original Toy Story 3 on DVD, in which contained a bonus feature that gave us a special look at the time in development Toy Story Land. Now, being a fan of the Toy Story franchise, I was absolutely excited, but the unfortunate part was, at the time, my parents just didn't have the budget to afford going to Disney World. But almost after a decade later, I finally got my wish. So did Toy Story Land live up to my expectations? First, I gotta give props to the Imagineers who made the design of Toy Story Land feel like you're in the world of Toy Story, as almost every single thing that you come across is just a giant version of a toy that you would come across in the real world. From what I can understand, Toy Story Land is essentially based within Andy's backyard, henceforth the giant grass that you come across, which I didn't notice until making this video. So presentation-wise, I love it. As for the rides themselves, I have some problems. Let's start with the very first ride that I rode on at Disney World, Slinky Dog Dash. This is a roller coaster ride based around the character Slinky Dog. It's what you expect. It's a roller coaster with Slinky as the roller coaster itself. Now, while it was fun, I expected a whole lot more. And yeah, I know, it's a roller coaster with Slinky Dog in it. What did I expect? But here's the thing. When you take a look at the ride itself, you feel like there's something missing, something that should have captured the magic and feeling of being a part of the Toy Story universe. And the one thing that I felt like was missing from this roller coaster was a proper gimmick. Yeah, Slinky Dog is the roller coaster that you ride on, but out of all the characters from the Toy Story franchise, why Slinky Dog? There are plenty of characters who are basically just vehicles, like RC, or even Rolling Bob. Even the roller coaster itself is supposed to be based on a Hot Wheels track, so if I'm supposed to be on that type of track, I think riding on Slinky Dog is the last thing I would think about when coming up with a ride like this. So if I were to have the ability to change the ride, I would give it two options. 1. Don't make the ride based around Slinky Dog, make it based around RC. Or 2. Keep the Slinky Dog aesthetic, but change the way that the roller coaster feels and looks. Now imagine this, you get on the ride, and in between you and the other passengers that are in front of you and behind you are these coils. Depending where you are within the ride, whether you're going up or going down or turning sideways, the coils react to where they are positioned. You can move upwards, downwards, etc. And that way it would make you feel like you're riding on Slinky Dog. Hey, yo! Now again, I'm not an Imagineer myself and I don't know the logistics of how possible that would be, but still, make it unique rather than just a basic roller coaster, because after that, I was just not interested in going back again. And it kind of sucks because there's just not a lot of good rides at Toy Story Land. But out of all the rides I had the most frustrating experience with, it would have to be Toy Story Mania. Toy Story Mania is a unique ride and is a fan favorite amongst park goers, as it's not only a ride but a gallery shooter. The ride was so popular that it even got a video game on the Wii. Who remembers that game? But it wasn't the ride that I had the most frustration with. It was me waiting in line for said ride. I shit you not. Waiting in line for Toy Story Mania took 2 hours. 2 hours! 2 hours! I'm going to tell you all my experience waiting in line for Toy Story Mania. A line that originally was supposed to be a half-hour long, but ended up being more than that. Now I know that waiting in line for hours upon hours just to get on a ride is expected for park goers, but oh my goodness, what I saw in line was absolutely frustrating. So I'm in line, right? Just waiting to get on the ride, and then out of nowhere, for some reason, it goes from 30 minutes to 40 minutes. I continued waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Keep in mind, I was waiting outside and it was 90 degrees. And yeah, I'm not the type of guy who is a fan of the heat. So me and many other park goers who were in the same line as me were sweating our asses off in the Orlando heat. 55 minutes passed and I finally make it inside the building, only to be awaited by another series of lines. And to make it even worse, there were a bunch of kids who were playing around the display pieces. And the parents of those children, they just let them be, while other parents who were trying to keep their kids restrained from going to play on those display pieces were looking in utter disappointment, including myself. Where are the cast members? Why is nobody stopping them? And why in the world did they increase the wait time to 55 more minutes? Like, yeah, there was a kid who was dangling on one of the arms of the barrel of monkeys that you saw in the movie, and we were just thinking to ourselves, oh my god, are they gonna break one of the display pieces here? That would be really embarrassing. And yeah, like I said, there were 0 cast members to restrain anyone from interacting with the display pieces. But it kind of goes to show that, damn, there's not a lot to do when waiting in line. While the kids and parents were in the wrong for almost destroying the set pieces, what could you possibly do for the next 2 hours while waiting in line for a ride/gallery shooter? Then come to find out that the reason for such delay was that one of the vehicles ended up breaking mid-ride. And we only found out about this midway through the line. And the crazy part about it, this wasn't communicated to us through the speakers. One of the individuals waiting in line spotted a cast member and asked them why there was a delay, and that's when we found out. And the crazy part about it, the cast member didn't even alert everyone else. I just so happened to eavesdrop on the conversation and learn about it from there. Why in the world was there such poor communication from the cast members? Throughout the duration waiting in line for Toy Story Mania, I could have gone in line for the Aerosmith ride, which again, I unfortunately didn't go on. But once we finally arrived to Toy Story Mania, finally, after all of that waiting, I can say that Toy Story Mania was a lot of fun. The objective of the game is very simple. It's a 4D shooter that allows you to shoot various targeted points. It's your standard gallery shooter, but it's a lot of fun when you're competing against the person sitting next to you. And with the high score system that they placed within the ride, they heavily encourage you to re-ride this ride so that you can fill up your high score and possibly beat the highest one that they have. But after experiencing that horrendous wait time, here's what I have to say.
No, that's fine.
Despite my excitement for Toy Story Land, it's a huge shame that I didn't live up to my expectations. I really wanted to enjoy the rides that this land had to offer, but I was expecting a whole lot more, especially given the fact that this is Toy Story, for God's sake. An animated film franchise that was a pioneer for 3D animated features. Toy Story Land is in need of an extreme makeover, and if new changes are made to Toy Story Land, who knows, maybe I'll come back to it sometime. But until then, the possibilities seem to be less than infinity and beyond. Let's head on over to Star Tours. The adventure continues. I previously rode on the ride over at Disneyland, so I already had my fair share of experiences with the ride. However, what makes Star Tours so unique is that it always changes its layout. The last time I rode it at Disneyland, the sequel trilogy was still going on. And to synergize it into the ride, we were confronted by Kylo Ren and his new order. Flash forward to now, the Star Tours that I rode on had the traditional Empire with Darth Vader as its main antagonist. I really enjoy Star Tours. It's a timeless ride, and with the amount of changes that they make to the ride, it makes Star Tours very revisitable. But to put it simply, I love Star Tours. I mean, I love anything Star Wars. Except for, certain things, but you get the point. Up next, let's take a look at Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. This ride is located at the Chinese Theater, and the concept of the ride is really cool as basically you're thrown into the Mickey Mouse cartoon. Before getting on the ride, you have to watch a cartoon depicting Mickey and Minnie going on a picnic. This portion of the attraction is the most memorable as it contains a pretty catchy song that a lot of people that I was with were singing along to. It just goes to show how beloved this ride really is, even if it opened all the way back in 2023. Now, how you get on the ride is actually pretty cool. Like I said before, the concept is basically you being thrown into the world of Mickey Mouse. The screen that you're watching the cartoon from literally tears itself apart. As a result, you have to go inside of said hole, in which you are finally able to go on the ride. The set design was amazing to look at, especially with the unique animatronics that they gave to both Mickey and Minnie Mouse respectively. Utilizing light projections to simulate the facial expressions of Mickey Mouse and Minnie was an absolute delight and honestly was the highlight of the ride. Now, what makes this ride stand out from other rides at Disney World is that they utilize a new technological feat known as 2.5D. Basically, everything that you see within the ride is from a 2D perspective. This also allows environments to pop out without the utilization of 3D glasses. And what makes this ride really unique is the fact that it's trackless, optimizing technology that recognizes where it's at within the building. It fits the ride so well because it almost feels like the world itself that you're transported to is controlling the ride. Runaway Railway is definitely one that I recommend you checking out if you just so happen to be in the parks. Now let's make our way to Sunset Boulevard as we take a look at Tower of Terror. Like I said before, this ride is based on the television show The Twilight Zone. The plot surrounding Tower of Terror has you visiting the hotel, but the elevators just so happen to be possessed by an unknown force that causes you to experience some very shocking thrills. As you may know, the one in Anaheim was taken over by the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. Now, while I enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, upon riding Tower of Terror, I'll admit, I think I prefer the original. That doesn't mean that the Guardians ride is bad or anything, but Tower of Terror offers a whole lot more that the Guardians seem to gloss over. Tower of Terror builds up to the suspense, almost as if you're in an episode of The Twilight Zone. It is the ride equivalent of a plot diagram. You enter within the conflict, go up to the rising action, and then to the climax, and literally experiencing the falling action. What really surprised me the most was going within the middle of the building. You see, I thought Tower of Terror was going to be something similar to the Guardians ride because I was a rookie park goer at the time, and I still am to this very day. I thought that the Guardians ride was just Tower of Terror with Marvel painted over it. And I think that's what I really enjoyed about Tower of Terror. Going in blind and not expecting the unexpected. Again, almost feeling like I was watching an episode of The Twilight Zone. I hope this ride does not go away anytime soon. But as we leave Sunset Boulevard, let's travel to a galaxy far, far away. Galaxy's Edge opened in 2019, which was actually the year date that I visited Disneyland for the very first time. Seeing how this wasn't my first space rodeo, I'll give you a quick summary of my thoughts on Galaxy's Edge. Set on the planet Batuu, it really makes you feel like you're on an alien planet. And if you're wondering if there are differences between the Galaxy's Edges in either Disneyland and Disney World, there are some that I noticed, especially with the size of Galaxy's Edge over at Disney World being much bigger than the one at Disneyland. Another key difference is that Disney World is the only place where you can access personality chips for your custom droids. From what I can understand, they were originally at Disneyland, but for some reason they were removed unexpectedly. But regardless, depending on which location you're at, you'll still be able to get the Star Wars experience that you hoped for. The Millennium Falcon is in both locations. You can still come across Stormtroopers and Kylo Ren and many other characters, but the one thing that I think everybody should experience when coming to Galaxy's Edge is the blue milk. An in-universe food product within the Star Wars mythos, you could finally experience the ever so popular drink that caused this very scene to get deleted from A New Hope.
Charlie?
Now, while I'm not a fan of the drink tasting like a light version of a slushie, the taste is definitely worth the price. Anyways, let's take a look at some of the rides. Specifically one that I never got a chance to ride on back in 2019, simply because of the fact that it wasn't in development at the time. And that ride was Rise of the Resistance. This has got to be one of my favorite rides of all time. I thought it was going to be a simple dark ride where you navigate through the Death Star, as seen through multiple clips that I saw online, but there's so much more to it. The plot of the ride has you join the Resistance and make your way out of the planet Batuu, but then the ship that you're in is intercepted by the Empire as you're taken in as a prisoner. You then find yourself in the Death Star, and oh my goodness, the interior design is so amazing, as you are soon thrown into a detention cell where you are then confronted by Kylo Ren himself. But not until you are then rescued by a bunch of rebel spies who then navigate you to the escape pods. This isn't just a ride, it's an immersive adventure that lasts literally 20 minutes. Not only is that a long ride, but it's definitely worth the wait. Lucky for me, I was able to wait in line for almost 20 minutes. If Tower of Terror made you feel like you were in an episode of The Twilight Zone, then Rise of the Resistance made you feel like you were in a Star Wars movie. Now, after coming back to the planet of Batuu, I went to the droid shop to finally make my own personalized droid, a BB unit to be specific, although I didn't realize how lucrative it would be. You see, depending on what droid that you're building, the on and off switches are located in different locations of the droid. You can conveniently find the switches on an R2 unit on its exterior, As for the BB unit, you have to take it apart and switch it on and off in the interior. So if you just let your droid sleep for 5 minutes, you have to literally do the process all over again. But regardless, I had a whole lot of fun working on my droid. The cast members who were helping me build the droid were very helpful and kind, and regardless of that weird hiccup with the switches, I was absolutely satisfied with the final product. And the best thing about these droids is that they are TSA approved, so if you're traveling from far distances like myself, you can easily bring these guys on your flight back home. And that was my experience with Hollywood Studios. Not a good start, but it ended off perfectly. I wouldn't expect to see myself come back here again, but if I were to, it would only be for Tower of Terror and Rise of the Resistance. So with that being said, that ends day 1. On to day 2, as we enter Animal Kingdom.
Spectro.
Tendo the Diving Seal?
No, it's Sonic the Hedgehog. Of course it's me!
Why are you interrupting my review? Let me guess, is it because I'm reviewing Disneyworld? Isn't Anaheim your territory?
Yes, but that's beside the point. Why are you suddenly doing theme park reviews?
Okay, first and foremost, reviewer divs aren't a thing anymore. And secondly, this is a one-time thing. When is the next time I'm ever gonna go to Disney World?
Fair enough. Well then, I'll leave you be. But, if you continue these type of reviews, we're gonna have a problem.
What the fuck is that sound coming from? Oh, okay, chill the fuck down, SeaWorld.
Fine, I'll leave you be. Tendo out. One to beam up.
God damn. Oh well. Anyways, go check out the Rise of the Resistance review. It's really good. Animal Kingdom was opened on Earth Day of 1998 and was the 4th and last park built for Disney World. As its name suggests, it's based around nature and animals, and funny enough, served as the basis for Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, I'm not joking, that's actually where the name Kingdom Hearts came from. And lying in the middle of the park is the Tree of Life, in which I would consider to be their equivalent of the giant castle at Magic Kingdom. The park is essentially an animal conservation, or by extension, a giant zoo. You'll find a ton of these animals if you partake in the safari tour, which was one of the first things we went on. While not a ride specifically, call it what it is, it's basically Jungle Cruise with the real experience. Seeing all the real-life animals right in front of you was quite fascinating. And this is obviously coming from a guy who comes from a city in which the common animal that you'll come across are squirrels and deer. But overall, it was a really fun experience, very euphoric, and the closest I'll ever get to an actual safari tour. Now on to the rides. Funny enough, I went on every single ride at Animal Kingdom, so it's going to be a lot easier for me to cram every single ride at Animal Kingdom for this video. Let's start off with something small as we head on over to the Navi River Journey. But before we get into that, I just want to admire this section of the park. The park in which you explore a section of Pandora from the Avatar franchise. Holy shit, this has got to be one of the most impressive feats that the Imagineers have ever constructed. It honestly makes you feel like you're on an alien planet. The translation to the floating mountains from the movie and here are absolutely impressive. I was marveling at how crazy they were able to pull it off. It almost feels like it's just floating in midair. The entirety of Pandora was absolutely beautiful to look at, but unfortunately, we left pretty early, so we weren't able to see Pandora at nighttime, in which I was told that it looked way better at nighttime. So yeah, I was easily sold. But how are the rides here? Coming back to the Navi River Journey, it's your standard dark ride, with the biggest highlight being the iconic Navi Shaman that appears towards the end of the ride. The animatronic for this character moves very swiftly, and I gotta say, I'm quite impressed of how far technology has come to make animatronics like this feel so lifelike. And of course, the beautiful song that is sung throughout the entirety of the ride was very catchy, and I could still hear it to this very day. But like I said, it's your typical dark ride, just translated for Avatar. But honestly, I don't recommend you skipping it. But this is where we get to the real ride. The Avatar Flight of Passage ride. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to capture footage for what the line looked like, and I instantly regret doing so. You navigate through a series of caverns, and then you find yourself inside of a laboratory. Even if you're not a fan of Avatar, kinda like myself, you'll still be able to enjoy the amount of practical feats that they were able to incorporate this section of the ride. From the giant alien skull, and of course, the Avatar floating within the sleeping chamber. It instantly built my hype for riding this ride. As soon as you get on the ride, you are greeted by a group of scientists who task you to take on the form of an avatar. Afterwards, your objective is to get the rite of passage by flying on a banshee. Once you finally get on the ride, you'll realize that it's basically just Soarin' over America, but with the Avatar franchise plastered over it. We'll get to Soarin' over America soon enough, but I gotta say, I really enjoyed Flight of Passage. Even though I knew I was looking at a giant projection, there were times where I was completely caught off guard by the amount of terrain that we were flying past, as well as the added addition of water being sprayed onto the riders, creating the illusion that you're actually there. Overall, Avatar Flight of Passage was definitely a ride worth waiting for. And the Pandora section at Animal Kingdom as a whole is an absolute delight. If you are a fan of Avatar and have yet to visit Animal Kingdom, please do so. You will enjoy every single minute of it. We now make our way over to probably one of my personal favorite rides, and that is Dinosaur. I've heard a lot of good things about it, especially from my reviewer buddies, who are not only fans of the ride, but dinosaurs in general. Now, while I wouldn't consider myself a dinosaur enthusiast, regardless, this ride was really fun. So much so that this was the only ride at Animal Kingdom where I rode twice. The plot of the ride has you partake in a time-traveling experiment where you're able to travel through the Cretaceous period. You travel through this time period via a vehicle known as a time rover. And as you make your way onto said time rover and get transported to the Cretaceous period, you embark on a crazy adventure where you get to see tons of colorful and, I'll admit, scary looking dinosaurs. The climax of the ride is when you are confronted by a Carnotaurus, but just as it's about to devour you, you are then transported back to the present day. Now, if there's one little nitpick that I have for this ride, it's way too dark. I think a little lighting would have been more preferable, but overall, I had a lot of fun with this ride. It's fast-paced, the animatronics are amazing, and it does a really good job capturing the sense of being stuck in a time where dinosaurs ruled the earth. But sadly, not only is this my first time experiencing this ride, but it'll probably be my last. As of this year, Dinosaur will be closing in February of 2026. So if you're watching this video post February 2026 or even after 2026, then chances are the ride doesn't exist anymore. And I'm not too surprised of it being removed from Animal Kingdom because let's face it, it's definitely a product of its time. The pre-show just oozes with late 90s and early 2000s vibes, which really isn't a bad thing per se. It has some novelty to it. But for a ride based on a movie that not a lot of people remember fondly, I can completely understand why they wanted to change it with a fresh coat of paint. So here's to you, Dinosaur. You'll forever live in the hearts of many, including myself. Let's conclude our day at Animal Kingdom by taking a look at Expedition Everest. This is one of many rides at Disney World that a lot of people hold praise for, and for good reason. It's high octane, it's thrilling, and of course, it has the iconic and infamous Yeti animatronic. Now, I heard a lot of stories about the Yeti animatronic throughout the years, but for those who don't know, here's a quick summary. Originally, towards the end of the ride, the Yeti was supposed to swipe its arms at the passengers, almost as if it was attacking them.
This Yeti is the single biggest dynamic figure that has ever been built. There is nothing that is this big, that moves this fast in the world of animation.
But due to some unforeseen technical problems, they couldn't find a solution to make that happen. And since 2008, the Yeti has remained static ever since. Although rumor has it that the Yeti was so powerful for its own good that repeated usage could have possibly caused some catastrophic events to occur, possibly resulting in the Yeti falling apart and would have caused parts of the animatronic to fall on the tracks, which obviously could have jeopardized the guests. But just like the Yeti, it's all just a myth. As for the ride itself, it lives up to the hype. It's fast, it's thrilling, and seeing the Yeti for the very first time was an absolute delight. And yeah, that ends my day at Animal Kingdom. This portion of the video is short for one reason only. Animal Kingdom is the only park within Disney World that has the least amount of rides, since its main focus is to be in animal conservation, which is probably one of the reasons why I left early compared to the other parks that I attended. I literally did every single thing at this park, rode on the rides, ate the food, saw the exotic animals, watched Angelina adopt another child. My day at Animal Kingdom was already coming to a close. I honestly didn't have a bad time here, and if possible, I would love to go again compared to Hollywood Studios, which says a lot because Hollywood Studios has Galaxy's Edge. So if you're a huge fan of animals or just a nature person in general, then give Animal Kingdom a try. You won't be disappointed. That's a lot of fish. So that ends day 2 of my trip at Disney World. We are halfway through this trip and are just saving the best for last as we head on over to day 3 at EPCOT.
Is there anything you're not allergic to?
Yeah, the EPCOT Center, where I wanted to go.
EPCOT, also known as the Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow, this was one of Walt Disney's biggest dream projects. The original conception of EPCOT wasn't supposed to be an attraction, but rather an actual community, henceforth why it's called EPCOT in the first place. The iconic giant ball that you see in the middle of the park, that was originally conceived as a community hub. Before the conception of Animal Kingdom, EPCOT was the biggest attraction within Disney World, because like I said, this was originally a place where people were supposed to live in. But unfortunately, Walt Disney wouldn't be able to see his dream come to life, as in 1966, he would pass away due to lung cancer, and EPCOT wouldn't open for another 2 decades. EPCOT would receive a ton of refurbishments. It would be considered the most successful and the most unsuccessful parks in the entirety of Disney World's history. With barely any rides during the first few runs of EPCOT, while struggling to pick a specific identity, today, EPCOT is celebrated by both Disney park fans and non-Disney park fans. To tell you the truth, this portion of the review is going to be a little hard given the fact that I barely went on any rides. The best part about EPCOT is the fact that the rides itself are kind of secondary in nature. But before we explore the rest of EPCOT, let's take a look at the rides, starting with... Wait, what the fuck? Hey!
Look at me! Look at me!
Was that Figment? Oh my god. Okay, you know, the next time I see him, I swear to God, I'm gonna put his decapitated head on a pike! Sorry for my vulgarness. Journey into Imagination with Figment. Figment was created specifically for EPCOT and has remained sort of a mascot for the entirety of not only EPCOT but the Disney parks as a whole. Figment was created by Steve Kirk, Tony Baxter, and Xavier Atencio and made his debut in 1983. I won't get too deep into the lore of Figment because we'd be here all day, but all you gotta know is that he's been in and out of the parks and has gained a huge cult following, so at least he has his fans. But what do I think about him and his ride overall? It's a simple dark ride that lasts over 7 minutes, but I gotta say, I think I'm in the minority here when I say this, but I enjoyed the ride. And as much as I'll admit that Figment is hella annoying, I do appreciate the amount of creativity that went to this specific ride. You can tell that the Imagineers didn't half-ass it or anything. They went all out with its practical effects, as well as living up to its name as, well, being a figment of your imagination. And while the song is hella annoying, I will say this, it's forgettable to the point where after I got off the ride, I completely forgot about it afterwards. Unlike some ride. But we'll get to that much later. But overall, the Figment ride was harmless, but you're not gonna see me go on it a second time. With that being said, let's fly on over to Soarin' over America. Just like the Flight of Passage ride, this is just your standard flight simulator. But we do get this nice pre-show starring Patrick Warburton.
When the doors to your flight open, please take a seat and store all carry-on items in the underseat compartment. This includes cameras, purses, hats, and of course, these little beauties.
A
I'm only doing this because my wife doesn't like me voicing Joe from Family Guy.
Okay, let's review.
I believe that's my job. But yeah, there's really nothing for me to say here. It's just your standard flight simulator. I've been on plenty prior to this, but I think for first timers, you might get a kick out of it. So go on ahead and fly over to Soarin' over America. Then there's the Seas with Nemo and friends, and it's just another dark ride. I'm only covering this because, like I said, I didn't go on a lot of rides at Epcot, so I just wanted to cover this one just for the hell of it. It's cute, but also kind of forgettable. But the memorable part is the fact that after you get off the ride, you immediately go into the aquarium, even though you can simply go into the other alternate entranceway, but that's besides the point. The last ride I went on was Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. This is the second ride based on the Guardians of the Galaxy's franchise, and what makes this ride really unique is the fact that this is considered one of the biggest indoor roller coasters on the planet, so I'm very grateful to actually experience such ride. The plot of this ride centers around you helping the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Nova Corps retrieve the cosmic generator, which has been stolen by the rogue celestial Esson. This ride is what I would consider to be Marvel's answer to the dinosaur ride, as not only are you sent back in time, but you are sent all the way back to the Big Bang. This is because Esson intends to utilize the cosmic generator to wipe out all of existence by destroying the Big Bang itself, and upon thwarting Esson's plans, we are then sent back by the Guardians, but not until we are then thrown into a series of spirally thrills. Depending on your experience with Cosmic Rewind, a specific song will play in the background. There are 6 different songs chosen for this ride. There's September by Earth, Wind & Fire, Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears and Fears, I Ran So Far Away by A Flock of Seagulls, One Way or Another by Blondie, and Conga by Gloria Estefan, which was the song that played during my experience with the ride. From what I can understand, not a lot of people love the Conga song, as everybody prefers Everybody Wants to Rule the World instead. In my opinion, I actually kind of like the Conga song for this ride. It fits the chaoticness of the ride itself. Like seriously, the way the tram moves around in circles, it's kind of like a dance in a way. It's fast-paced, it's energetic, it's perfect for a ride like this. Although out of all the rides that I rode on at Disneyworld, this was the only ride that I felt very queasy after getting off of. My head felt so weird after getting off the ride. I had already said no to the idea of going on Mission to Mars, a ride so infamous that they actually provide barf bags just in case. And yeah, like I said, those were all the rides that I went on at Epcot. Most of my time here at this specific park was just me walking around and looking at all the different locations that Epcot had to offer, especially with the World Showcase. Hey Jack, I'm in Canada right now. Where are you? 11 different countries are represented here in this location of Epcot. If you were to walk throughout the entirety of World Showcase, it would take about 30 minutes. The craziest part about it, we walked around World Showcase 5 different times. Needless to say, Epcot was the most exhausting part of this vacation. But here at World Showcase, there are a lot of countries represented here. You have the United Kingdom, Japan, China, Morocco, the United States, despite the fact that Epcot is technically within the country. Like, I wonder what this place has to offer. This is just a Walmart, but the real kicker to Epcot is enjoying the food and drinks. A lot of people tend to indulge the alcohol provided at Epcot, and who could blame them? The whole point of Epcot is to try things from different places around the world, and alcohol just so happens to be one of them. Now, this may come as a surprise, but I'm really not into alcohol at all. Yeah, could you imagine a soon-to-be 26-year-old isn't into alcohol? As if my life already wasn't stressful enough, I don't indulge in the devil's juice. Let alone smoke for that matter. Just like CM Punk, I live a straight-edge lifestyle. Cause nothing says straight edge than giving my own pocket money to an oligopoly. But in all seriousness, alcohol just isn't my thing, and I tended to avoid having some at Epcot. But what I did drink were the sample sodas over at the Cool Club. Just like the World Showcase, Cool Club offers various sodas from around the world. But there's one specific drink that a lot of park goers try to experience for themselves. May I present to you the Beverly. The Beverly is a soda from Italy, and it's known for its very strong and bitter taste that'll have your tongue feeling like TV static. And since Epcot is the only place to try out the Beverly, park goers flock over to Cool Club just to try out the soda for themselves. And as I pour my sample of this drink, I have to say, the Beverly is not that bad. It just tastes like Italian soda without the flavoring. Like, yeah, the aftertaste is a little weird, but not gonna lie, it's not as bad as everyone makes it out to be. It's probably just a palate thing, but overall, I got to try out the Beverly. The biggest appeal of Epcot isn't just the fact that it's another attraction at Disney World, but you can simply visit this park as its own single entity. The park kind of just creates its own unique identity separate from the rest of the Disney parks. Henceforth why my experience attending Epcot was different compared to the other parks that I attended. And if by sheer miracle I win the lottery, I will definitely pay a visit to Epcot again. Oh, god damn it, now you make nitpick.
You forgot to mention that Star Tours was originally going to be based off of Disney's live-action film, The Black Hole from 1979, you idiot!
No, fuck it. I am not gonna let some internet troll ruin my goddamn show!
And also... Oh, I wonder who could that be? Wait, you're fighting me here! No, wait,
Wait,
you
sit your fucking ass down! I am so shit! I fucking hate you! I hate you!
One churro, please.
That'll be $14.
And finally, we end our Disney World journey at Magic Kingdom. Basically, everything that I did back in Disneyland is exactly what I experienced here at Disney World. It was more of a re-experience, but it was really nice to see it all again regardless, especially going on the rides that weren't around when I was at Disneyland at the time. Starting with the first ride that we waited for at Magic Kingdom, Tron Light Cycle Run. Considered the fastest ride ever built for a Disney theme park, Light Cycle Run has you, quote-unquote, race against other competitors as you find yourself within the world of Tron. If there's anything positive that I have to say regarding the Tron franchise, it was born to be a part of the Disney parks. And the light cycles are a perfect example of how you can translate that into a theme park ride. You have an IP that can tell a creative story and can be perfectly utilized within a theme park ride, but just like the franchise itself, the Tron roller coaster ride is kinda mid. I heard a lot of good praise regarding this ride, and I'm not going to discredit them. While I loved the aesthetic and plot surrounding this ride, the execution, however, felt a little stale. Like there was something missing with this ride, and I just can't seem to find a proper conclusion as to why I didn't like this ride. It was too fast for me to digest what was going on around my surroundings, given the fact that this was a roller coaster that was built indoors and outdoors. And that leads into my second problem. The fact that this ride that is set within the Tron universe starts you off from the outside. It kind of breaks the illusion of us being digitized into the Tron universe. We went during the daytime, and it definitely shows with its lack of presentation. A lot of people recommend going on this ride during nighttime, which definitely works best, but it doesn't change the fact that when riding on this ride, you're able to see the outside world. The ride failed to immerse me within the world of Tron, which really sucks because I know that this franchise has so much to offer. Yet just like the movies, they ain't going anywhere anytime soon. I only recommend this ride if you're a die-hard Tron fan. Maybe there's something you'll get out of it, but for me, it was game over. But let's change things up a bit and head on over to the Haunted Mansion, one of the most celebrated rides within the Disney parks. Do I really need to introduce this ride? Almost everyone knows about it. Even for those who have never stepped foot in a Disney park, the Haunted Mansion is one of the most famous names within the Disney franchise. So popular that they even made not one, not two, but 3 different Haunted Mansion movies. The one I went in Anaheim was a little different. Because it was the holiday season, the Haunted Mansion was decked out in its Nightmare Before Christmas theme. While it's not that bad of a makeover, the original Haunted Mansion is the experience that you want to get. It's the ride with the most scary imagery, iconic characters, and rich lore that transcends the ride itself. Thankfully, the Nightmare Before Christmas version is only unique to Disneyland. So if you're planning to travel to either of the Disney parks and want to go to the original Haunted Mansion ride during the holiday season, go to Disneyworld to experience the definitive ride. And upon entering the Haunted Mansion, I gotta say, it lives up to the hype. It is everything that I've always wanted to experience in the Haunted Mansion ever since I saw videos of it as a kid. Seeing the endless hallway, Madame Leota, and the singing statues made me feel like I was 11 again. It embraces the romantic gothicism of horror that just makes you want to go on this ride over and over and over again. I may be praising this ride a little too hard, but what else is there to say? The Haunted Mansion is a classic. Despite the fact that the Haunted Mansion is filled with ghosts, it ain't dying anytime soon. Let's tackle a few dark rides, starting with Under the Sea. This ride broke on us 5 different times. I previously experienced this ride all the way back in Disneyland, and even that also broke multiple times.
Come to a stop. Maybe it's that sea witch. Listen to me. Stay seated in your clamshell while I get to the bottom of this.
Even our face is like...
Maybe it's that sea witch.
Bro, even she knows this is a little getting repetitive with all the shutdowns. It really sucks because I don't want to be too critical about it given the fact that this ride was made for kids and kids in mind, and obviously I'm a grown-ass man who's paying his own goddamn bills for God's sake, complaining about a kid's ride. But oh my goodness, the technical issues that were happening during my time on this ride was so bad. You know it's bad when I would rather go on It's a Small... No. What the fuck am I saying? No. Absolutely not. Anyways, long story short, Under the Sea was very underwhelming. And then we have Peter Pan's Flight. Wow, this was pretty short. Could you believe that I waited half an hour to go on this ride? Okay, what else do we have left? Okay. Alright, let's talk about Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Now, I'm a little worried to talk about this ride because of, how do I say this? You see, for those who aren't aware, Tiana's Bayou Adventure was originally Splash Mountain. A lot of people were very upset when Splash Mountain was going to be replaced by Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Now, there are some things that I do want to say without having to spark some sort of controversy because, God forbid, a man has an opinion online. But I'm gonna be honest. Aside from the movie that Splash Mountain is based off of, when was the last time any of you guys saw Song of the South? Hell, when was any kid in this generation ever exposed to this movie? It's not available to watch on Disney Plus solely because of the fact that Disney themselves don't want it streaming on that platform. So from a logistical business standpoint, I feel like the removal of Splash Mountain was more or less a way of them saying, why are we profiting off of this? Now, I went on Splash Mountain during my time at Disneyland, and yeah, that was basically the first and last time I ever rode on Splash Mountain. It was a really fun ride, and I can understand why a lot of people were upset by it. Which is funny because when going on Tiana's Bayou Adventure, it's just Splash Mountain with Princess and the Frog thrown into it. The amount of outrage that this ride has compared to other rides at the Disney parks is beyond astounding, especially how different certain rides like the aforementioned Guardians ride replacing Tower Terror over in Anaheim, California has a more drastic change compared to Tiana's Bayou Adventure. It's a fucking water ride, for God's sake. You're still going on a log ride, you're going to get wet, you're going to see singing and talking animals, and when the hell did people start hating on Princess and the Frog, which, need I remind you, was the last theatrical Disney movie to be animated in 2D before the company decided to transition all of their animated works into 3D. It is still one of the most celebrated Disney films of all time, and if we're going on statistics, the most relevant, because people can access this movie on home media. Sure, you can find online rips of Song of the South, but I've never seen anyone say, let's watch Song of the South over Princess and the Frog. Now, I'll admit, I've personally never seen Song of the South, and who knows if I'll ever have time watching it, but the outcry for Tiana's Bayou Adventure is so unnecessary. Like, aren't there like 3 wars happening right now? All I gotta say is that on an unbiased take, Tiana's Bayou Adventure was a lot of fun, and the Imagineers and people behind it really wanted to make this ride special. And if there is any Disney movie that I think is more well-deserving of a ride, then it's definitely Princess and the Frog. So with that out of the way, let's end off this review with... It's a small world. Could you believe this ride is 15 minutes long? Yeah. The ride is way too long, the music is obnoxious and repetitive, and despite having a positive and uplifting message, despite its creator saying otherwise, just like the other dark rides, this was not intended for the adults. If anything, it was more intended to the children, and the children seem to like it, so why the hell would they want to take it down anytime soon? Now, I'm not as cynical compared to other people who have their feelings towards It's a Small World, but I don't know. If I can survive going on this ride at both Disneyland and Disney World, I think you can too. Oh yeah, I also went on Pirates of the Caribbean. Good times, good times. So that concludes my review of Disney World 2026. It was exhausting at times, it was even frustrating at times, but overall, I made a lot of good memories there. This experience and trip overall was very special to me, not as a content creator, but just because of the fact that Disney World Orlando was a childhood memory come true. When I was really little, I watched VHS tapes of recordings that my parents took during their first time going to Disney World. Seeing all the amazing rides that are either still here to this very day or no longer around made me hope that one day I too will go to this theme park. And almost 2 decades later, I finally fulfilled that wish. Stepping into the parks was very euphoric for me because it made me feel like I stepped foot into those home videos, and I could finally see the perspective that my parents saw through my own eyes. And it's no surprise that the more we get older, the more our loved ones get older. This wasn't just my first time at Disney World. This was my first time at Disney World with my family. And who knows if it will be my last. That's why we have to make these memories count. And even if I made this video just to review the rides, this video serves as a time capsule of my time at Disney World. I can always come back to this place whenever I want, all thanks to the footage that I captured, the memories that I shared with my family here, and the story that I'll be able to tell to my own kids if I get around that. Hopefully I'll be able to share these memories with them, just like how my parents did the same thing all the way back in those old VHS tapes. I know that the tone kind of changed a little bit during this portion of the video, and honestly I had to literally step out of the booth just to take a few breaks here and there, but I really mean it when I say this. Your family is forever. That's the real magic. This is Spectre Heliotic, dropping the mic.